Welcome to Ethan's Week in Review. I'm Ethan Leach, your host for this BBFL Week in Review Power Rankings. That's right. In this latest shameless ripoff of a more talented person, I'm going to be borrowing from the great Brandon Perna over at That's Good Sports.
You ever done anything dangerous?
Like throw a red zone pick for no reason late in the fourth quarter?
Oh, jeez. That is dangerous.
Like throwing off your back foot?
That is dangerous.
Like not seeing a wide open KJ Hamler?
I've done something like that too.
Like saying let's ride after an all-time embarrassing loss?
Thank you guys. Broncos country. That's right.
Perna every week likes to do a power rankings of the top 10 to 12-ish teams in the NFL with a lot of great commentary. So I am just going to straight up steal that and adapt it for the BBFL. I'm going to be taking the delicious peanut butter of the Week in Review and merging it with the delectable chocolate that is the power rankings into an ungodly peanut butter cup concoction that I'm sure you will all hate. Let's do it.
Coming in at number 12 this week, down one, is Hail to the King. We all remember the draft night fiasco storyline surrounding Sam and his picks, inebriation, so I think that until otherwise, an apt description here would be the late King, Robert Baratheon. Anyway, looking at All Hail the King, CD and Debo both had good days, and so did Hollywood Brown, despite not even having a quarterback. However, starting Watson once again hurt him there, very much underperforming, especially when he has Russell Wilson putting up 28 on his bench. And otherwise, just underperforms by Josh Jacobs, A.J. Dillon, and Kyle Pitts. And I already am not a fan of A.J. Dillon being with Aaron Jones in the timeshare there up in Green Bay. And without much on the bench to inspire, there's really only up to go for Sam and his royal court. Coming in at number 11, up one spot from last week, is the Stubborn Mules. Had big games here from Josh Allen, T. Higgins, and Kelsey, clear standouts on the team, and Mike Williams and Smith and Jigba could be nasty too. And even Adam Thielen down here on the bench if Bryce Young really takes a step forward in his rookie year. However, I can't in good conscience keep them up much higher with Dameon Pierce, Javonte Williams as their head running back committee, which could easily be fixed with some trades or some waiver requisitions. And I have to call out the statistical anomaly that was the Steelers' defense. You take away those points, returning them to the norm, or even cut that score in half, Stu walks out of here with a win in week 2. So, like what you're doing here, a lot of room to go up, but still have to save room for higher teams. Coming in at number 8 is my own team. If you live by the stack, you die by the stack. Really down day for Trelaw, Etienne, and Calvin Ridley. Etienne did leave early with cramps, and Jacksonville just couldn't get anything going against Kansas City, so I think those guys will bounce back, but my soft underbelly was really exposed this week. Reek also had a relatively quiet day. He, whenever you go up against Bill Belichick, he knows how to take out your number one guy. So as much as I hate that man with a burning passion, he does know what he's doing. I'm not, like I said, I'm not worried about Trelaw, Etienne, or Ridley as individual players, but keep it on the same team. Other than that, and then, going into this week, Sanders was a passable flex, and I had a high-end RB1 of Nick Chubb until he exploded his leg on Monday Night Football, which means the Gangars now have no true running back one. It's a far fall from grace. I ranked myself at number 1 last week. I'm down 9 spots to the number 10, so I have a lot of room to climb back up. Coming in at number 9, Beats by Dwight, 1-1 team. I had them ranked 9th last week as well. Didn't come out of this game with a win, despite a Herculean effort by Kirk Cousins. Connor, Cooper, Kirk, and Dak all came to play this week, just unfortunately a lot of them were on the bench. You didn't need Dak. Kirk Cousins put up 43 points this week somehow, so you've got 2 quarterbacks you can usually rely on. I think Cousins will return closer to the norm. I can't see primetime Cousins ever putting up 43 like that again, but crazier things have happened. A.J. Brown really got overshadowed this week, and I think he's usually going to be better than that. He can really bring a lot more to this team. So I don't think we need to panic with A.J. Brown. My concern here, and this is just me personally, is with Henry, Najee, and Hopkins. One, you've got the stack between Henry and Hopkins. Henry has been an interesting player the last couple years. He hasn't returned quite to King Henry levels, and who knows what the game plan is going to be like in Tennessee this year. Najee still is just not seeing the carries he saw his first breakout year in the league, and that can be frustrating for owners. And D-Hop is starting to get a little long in the tooth, and the real drawback there is Ryan Tannehill. I do not have confidence in the quarterbacking in Tennessee. So definitely a team with potential, but some running back and wide receiver concerns for me personally. I'd like to see maybe 1 or 2 switch outs, somebody a bit closer to reliable, and I think this team could really go on a tear. Coming in at number 8 are the Unicorn Wizards, up 1 from last week. I like Fields. I'm going to die on this hill, but I think he's the guy. I'm waiting for him to vindicate me. Kyron Williams looked really great, and we had some late-breaking news with Akers out the door to Minnesota. I think he's only going to increase on this. Maybe not 27 points per week, but he's going to be the guy, and I really like his chances there in LA. Somebody's got to do something there. And you've got Devontae Adams, who's always a stud. You all know how I feel about Sun God. Mark Andrews is finally back. Tyler Lockett is really feasting with Geno Smith, who I owe apologies to. We'll get to that later. So this is a pretty impressive team right off the back. I would like to see another quality running back come out of here. The bench is a little concerning with who we've got sitting here between Cook, Addison, Gabe Davis, but I think either if Jamal Williams really starts to come through and some of these guys are a little more consistent, I could see the Unicorn Wizards really jumping up in the rankings from number 8. It's just there's some powerful teams and some teams I like ahead of them. Speaking of which, at number 7, I have the Brush. Hear me out. They're down 4 spots from where I placed them last week. Joe Burrow, I think, is still getting up to speed. He does seem to have some sort of injury, and he might be out week 3, which is going to be a problem. But despite that, I love the double B-Rob connection. Jamar Chase should be better than this. Ayuk had a really quiet week, who I believe is also dealing with an injury. Double B-Rob really coming through for you this week, Kelsey, so continue to ride that B-Rob train. Jamar Chase is tied directly to Burrow, despite him normally being a fantasy lock and just usually going off for crazy points. So when Cincinnati gets out of this funk, he's going to be very powerful again. I still love Ayuk. I've loved him for years. He's a Benny Bowl champion, but it does look like he has an injury that could be holding him back right now, so you have to keep an eye on that if I was his manager. Kelsey's bench also stashes some Broncos and JT, which are total wild cards. I think either the Bronco players she have could really break out. Jahan Dotson is also a sneaker to break out this year. JT, when he comes back, who knows what's going on there? Personally, I think Kelsey's team is greater than the sum of its parts. She's just dealing with a lot of bad luck and injuries at the moment, and I think the BBFL needs to be on lookout for her. At number 6, I have the Heretical Hyphens, a 2-0 team that's down 1 from my ranking last week. A win is a win, even if you leave Swift on your bench with 26 points. You've got Lamar, Pollard, and Diggs that are all studs. They should be producing big numbers every week. Ramondre Stevenson, he could be a wild card. He could be legit. So could Godwin. They could bring a lot of points to this team that really fill in some holes that we see from Alexander Madison, with some late-breaking news with Akers heading to Minnesota. That's probably going to put a cap on Madison's production, if not completely kill it. So I think Sutton also has potential. Again, I think any Denver player is a real wild card this year. Zach Charbonnet could also have a crazy breakout year, especially if there's an injury in the backfield for Seattle. I think this is a really exciting team, and I think this could be a pretty powerful team if all the right pieces fall into place. A win is a win, even at 99 points. So let's see where Tuck's team goes next. At number 5, I have the LA Whackers, 1-1 team that's down a spot from last week. I still love me some Herbie Fully Loaded, Wilson, and Allen. Also a big fan of the Tutu Atwell pickup, so these are all super big fantasy studs. I'm excited to see where they go. The issues come now, one with James Cook, because I don't know how much I trust his usage in Buffalo. It kind of depends on the game plan and how much Josh Allen has to will his team back into the conversation. And with no discernible timetable left for Austin Eckler, I had to kind of bump him down a little bit, because who knows when he'll come back. That is a bit of a glaring hole in this team at the moment, but if that's your biggest problem right now, that's a pretty good position to be in. And P.S. Drake London maybe could be a breakout. You never know. Atlanta is kind of a crazy batshit city right now, and they're a very run-heavy offense, but who knows if London will continue to break out. At number 4, I have the Knights of Ren, who jumped up 6 spots in my rankings this week. Goffins went Goff. Crazy there. I still don't know if I really believe in the Goffins there. Jahmyr Gibbs came into the game. Walker and DK seem to be the guys in Seattle. And if Geno keeps producing, they'll be just fine. We've seen a lot of crazy play out of Seattle so far. And Nico Collins is a super interesting receiver. He's the top target in Houston, but their QB is a rook, so that could go either way. Outside of Walker, I do have concerns at running back. I still think Judy's going to have a great year in Denver. We're just waiting to see that happen. Breece Hall, who knows when he's going to be back, if he's going to be back, will he return to his previous form? Along with Dalvin Cook in that backfield, he is a pretty big wild card right now for the Jets. Other than that, a pretty powerful team. Even though they're 1-1, I think this is one of the teams to reckon with this year thus far. Coming in at number 3, I've got Scary Terry, a 2-0 team. He jumped up 5 spots in my rankings this week, and it's another team that I will admit has been proving me wrong. Hurts and Saquon are finally showing up. Saquon needed a really big bounce back after the horrible week 1 loss. These are the numbers we should be seeing from them every week, and I'm excited that I'm finally being vindicated. Raheem Mostert absolutely took off in week 2. He may be breaking out in Miami. Miami's already a super high-flying offense, so I don't know if there's room for him there, but we will see. Jalen Waddle, I believe, I didn't read into this fully, I believe he may have a concussion, so that could have affected his game and will affect him going into week 3, so we have to keep an eye on him there. But I do love him as a wide receiver 1, along with the team's namesake, Scary Terry McLaurin. Again, Washington, I think they're a sleeper team to go real far or do real well this year. Kittle's still ramping up, so that is a bit of a concern there. While on the flip side, I do like the usage that Pittman is getting so far with his connection to Anthony Richardson. But when we check out the bench, I don't see a lot of inspiring play. Aaron Jones is a running back by committee in Green Bay, so I don't think he's going to get a lot of touches there when he hits the field. But again, I think Scary Terry is definitely one of the scariest teams in the BBFL right now. Coming in at number 2, I have the Buffmen, another team up 5 that is also proving me wrong. Thank you, Chase. First off, my apologies to Geno Smith. He looks like he could actually be the guy in Seattle. I was a little skeptical after, some of the numbers we saw in Seattle last year, but I do like what we're seeing so far, and 35 points ain't too shabby. Look down on the bench. Danny Dimes had a comeback for the ages after that miserable week 1 play with 38 points, so you might have 2 pretty solid, maybe not top 5 quarterbacks, but pretty fucking solid quarterbacks on your roster here. CMC, Smith, and Evans are all over 20 points this week, and they look good. This is exactly where you should see them playing pretty much every week, so that is dangerous. Mixon and Montgomery are bringing up the rear. Joe Mixon nearly got to his projected. Today, still trying to get it back up to speed after the offseason, so I think Mixon should see better play in the future. Waller's an interesting candidate for tight end. The Giants really had a good comeback week, and he looked good, but will he continue to produce there? And David Montgomery does give me some pause, as he seems to be injured. Looking at the bench real quick, I also love the pickup of Puka Nacua. I wish I would have gotten on that one soon, and maybe when Christian Watson is healthier, he could be a favorite target of Jordan Love. So, good depth, great outstanding players on your starting lineup, and I think Chase is going to be making a run for the number 1 spot in the power rankings. Which leads us to the number 1 spot in the league. This week, the Wild Stallions at 1, up from 2 last week. Only 2 players under double digits. One was a kicker, and the other one is behind B-Rob in Atlanta, so can't really blame him for that one. Everyone either played at or above their expected level for me, and they seem to be pretty consistent with it so far, so that's a pretty dangerous recipe for success. My only area of concern would be at the flex. You've got Zay Flowers in this week, who had a good week. But looking down, DJ Moore, you never know. Gibson, you never know. Warren, you never know. So if you have to sub someone in, or you hit the bye week, that could be an issue. James is going to be a hard out every week, and he's definitely the one to beat right now.
Thank you all for watching this first edition of Ethan's Week in Review. If you can think of a better name or come up with a better logo for the show, please let me know, because I am fresh out of ideas, as you can see. Go give Brandon Perna a follow on all the socials. He goes by That's Good Sports. He also has a podcast called That's Good Broncos. Inspiration for this, and one of the best voices in YouTube football. You can follow me here on my YouTube channel since you're already here. I'll also link to every week's Power Rankings Google Doc in the description below. I'm Ethan Leach, and I'll see you whenever I'm back in the rotation for the Week in Review.